What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ryan D. Lee Show. I was off last week for a couple of days, traveling to Florida. 87 degrees and 87% humidity. That is a interesting combination for my California ass. All right. Yesterday was Father's Day, and all of you fathers out there, we have a couple here on the show, me and Sky, know what that means. There is a moment that comes when they lay that child in your arms after he or she is born, where a selflessness wave overcomes you, where you know from that point on, like everything you do is going to be about this little person, no matter what. Like your selfish nature is no longer going to exist. So everything I do, when it comes to work, when it comes to anything, he's the number one priority for me. And so yesterday, reflecting on that, especially with where my past has taken me, there was a point where I didn't want to ever give anybody my last name because of how I was viewed, of how I was looked upon. I said I don't want to raise a child, and we know how mean kids can be with one another, and how much they'd make fun of their dad, and so I just didn't want to have a child and bring it into the world. And that's an incredibly selfish position to take, because it's my dad's name, it's my grandfather's name, both served and are veterans of this country who have sacrificed. That name is incredibly meaningful in this world. And when he was born and I gave him that last name of Leaf, I was incredibly proud. And to see him grow over the last 3.5 years, to experience another Father's Day go by as a safe and sober man, that was special. It was incredibly special for me that I'm his father and that I get to be a part of that. I know many of the dads out there that I didn't feel necessary to post anything on social media. I think we see a lot of that. It's kind of how the world revolves around these things now, is that you post about these things. Just like if it isn't posted on social media, does it really even happen, or do you even really feel that way about your dad? My dad, of course, is my hero. And he has raised 3 boys and now has a grandchild. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you'd think the boys of your own would be the most important thing, but it's the grandchild. Grandchildren for your parents, you'll learn down the line, everybody, is what is most important. That's all he cares to talk about. That's all he cares to think about. He's going to visit here at the end of next month with my mother for her birthday, and that's all the talk has been about, is how. So that makes me proud to be his son, in which I had a son. That gives him so much pleasure to be a grandpa around. Generationally, there's 4 generations of Leafs right now, which I think is really impressive. We took a picture a couple summers ago with my grandfather, my dad, myself, and my son. And that is 4 generations of Leaf men. And the selfless nature of where I was just a few years back, thinking that I wouldn't want to bring a child in this world and give him my last name, is incredibly selfish, because he is so special. He is a personable treat. He is kind. He is sensitive. His mom and I are doing our best to raise him the best we can. He acknowledges his feelings. I'm a very proud father, and it's only been 3.5 years. My phone immediately is pulled out at any kind of function I go to show pictures of MacGyver, Fitzgerald, Leaf, and that's father's pride. Sky has that as well, and Jonathan, you will ultimately figure out what that's all about down the line. But as we welcome in our audience. After a weekend of a lot of sports, we bring in Sky and Jonathan after after a Father's Day weekend where we watched a couple Game 7s. We watched the U.S. Open play out here in Southern California at one of the best venues you can imagine in Torrey Pines. And then we got a Final Four set in the NBA playoffs. And that's going to be the question of the day for everybody out there. Are you happy with the Final Four, Suns, Bucks, Clippers, Hawks? I was made very aware that my initial reaction and thought was that these four teams had never won titles before, even though I keep being reminded, and I know the Bucks won a title with Lou Alcindor, ultimately Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But then my response to them is, if anything happened before 1976, which was the year I was born, isn't even relevant. That's not even real. So the Hawks were another team even. They were the St. Louis Hawks when they won a title. 1958. So again, not relevant, right?
So the Lakers don't have 17 titles then.
Yeah, history is pre-75 is out of here.
I vehemently agree with this take right now because it makes my Celtics look better.
Okay. I just that's the way I responded when people blatantly told me I was wrong last night when I said this will be a first time for four franchise. No, it won't. For the Suns and the Clippers, it could be, but not for the Hawks and the Bucks. All right, let's open up with the U.S. Open, guys. All the talk heading into it was, can Phil repeat? Can do something unprecedented? Can Bryson and Brooks stop play fighting and kissing each other long enough outside the ropes to actually put something together? Hey, for a moment, Bryson led on the back nine, and Brooks was within one stroke on the back nine. So everybody was kind of hoping for maybe a playoff where those two would go head-to-head to win US Open. Neither happened. They both fell flat on their face and fell out of contention. Rory as well. For a while there, I looked at that back nine, and I was like, is anybody going to do anything? Everybody was going the opposite direction. Louis didn't necessarily have the best putting stroke, as he hasn't had on Sundays in majors since he won in 2010 at the British Open. But he found his stroke late. He made a comeback, but nothing could stop Jon Rahm, the guy that we made fun of around not being vaccinated in time as a professional athlete, where you could have a chance to win $1.7 million at the Memorial, being told after the third round that he had contracted the virus and he had to withdraw, which cost him a ton of money. To be able to come out of quarantine, know his swing was strong, stay in the hunt until the back nine down the stretch, and he made maybe two of the biggest putts I've ever seen made at that golf course. So I played it a ton, and where he hit those balls, where he had to hit those putts from, they had terrible break in them. I mean, just a ton, and he absolutely buried them both on 17 as well as 18, and deservedly so is the 2021 United States U.S. Open champion, which I thought was what a great champion to do it as a brand new father on Father's Day, to have his family there, and to do it, to win it, right? Not because everybody was falling backwards, right? Everybody was coming back. No one was actually stepping forward and getting it done. And to have the guy that won the tournament birdie the final two holes like he did in that fashion, I thought was very, very important for where golf is going. Because I think Jon Rahm right now is the star. The Rory McIlroys, the Justin Thomases, the Dustin Johnsons, those guys are all in there. Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau. This is going to be Jon Rahm's world that we're living in the PGA Tour for a long time. I do think so.
Wow, there was a lot there to pick out of. I'm still stuck on Bryson. Can we backtrack here for a sec?
Yes. That was the menu. All right, that was the menu.
That was the menu. Oh, well,
you pick from.
We go to.
You pick from the menu. All right.
The next 4 hours, we could go contribute just to this menu alone. First of all, Jon Rahm deserves the key to San Diego because that guy, he said in the post game interview, this is his second home. Like, he lands here, it feels like home in Spain. And the city has embraced him, man. Like, I know that we want our boy Xavier Schauffele to get in there at the end. And of course, Phil being the representative, but Rahm is an honorary, so they got to give that guy a key to the city. Bryson's shtick works. Like it total. I think that look up until what was it 13 when he had his first bogey in 30 straight holes, which is incredibly impressive. His shtick works. Like this guy was purposely not going for fairways. He was going wide right into the rough on like half of these, but he found a way. Like him and Koepka are like they should go work for disaster relief because they find ways, these interesting ways to get out of really bad situations, to either set up long birdies or eventually get to par. What we learned is that Rory is not good. He was so bad at that this weekend. When he could get his 2 or 3 strokes onto the green, he was fine. But if there was some sort of disruption up to his approach, he just didn't look comfortable. I don't know. Everybody coming into like Bryson is like, oh, he's just like, loudmouth. He's blah, blah. You have your Brooks fans. I think that Bryson's shtick works. I think that Brooks' shtick works. They both play very different golf and they're both exciting. But at the end of the day, neither really seems like this, all this off the rope stuff, off the in between the rope stuff, like you said, Ryan. I don't know. Maybe that played a little bit to the end because they kept alluding to Koepka hearing roars of Bryson, when they were intersecting on the course and all this stuff. Maybe there's a mentality to it that really screwed with both of them towards the end there that had them drop off. Or maybe it was just Louis and Rahm to win it up. Maybe they both deserved to be where they were. Do you like Bryson, Ryan?
I do like Bryson.
Maybe that was your reaction.
No, I do like Bryson.
Okay.
I've spent time with him on the range. I felt like he is. He's got his own way of doing things, right? And hey, you do what you need to, but ultimately his way didn't work because he missed too many greens coming down the stretch. I mean, to your point, I think his first bogey was number 11, that par 3 where he shot it out to the right.
Yeah, hit the penalty area. Yeah.
Over to the right there, and then he struggled the rest of the way through. He kept everything to the right. Once you start hitting it that way on purpose, when the pressure and everything gets tighter, it gets elongated, it gets exacerbated, and so it went further right than he wanted it to on some holes where he couldn't have it go right. Where he was the leader going into the 11th hole on the back 9 of the U.S. Open for consecutive U.S. Opens.
And it's funny because as soon as Brooks dropped down after that bogey, it seemed like that's when Bryson started to stumble a little bit too. These guys are all board watchers. They all know what's going on. And that's where I'm wondering if the mental aspect plays a part.
I wonder how Jon Rahm putts. Like, there isn't a weakness in his game, right? There's some guys on the tour that just smash it all over the place that, are pretty good putters, but they're not great putters. Jon Rahm's got every shot in the bag.
Yep.
What has been his, let's say, so-called weakness has been a little bit of a temper, right? Which, Spanish men are, it kind of goes hand in hand with that thought process, a little red under the collar, I think fatherhood is going to temper that a bit. We saw how he reacted after the Memorial, after being told that he could no longer board. He was devastated, but there wasn't a ton of anger. I feel like he is rounded into a perfect spot. I don't know if this is going to make him the number 1 player in the country or in the world after this win. It very well could be, but I could see this guy going on a run where he is at the top of the world rankings and is in every single major and every single big PGA tournament for the foreseeable future. I really do. I think his game is that strong. It's that fluid of a swing. It is a real left to right measured cut shot, which I know what that's like. My little brother plays it, and it makes it very difficult for me to beat him all the time because he knows exactly where he's hitting the ball every single time. Like he knows where it's going. I have a really good golf swing, but I can't tell you where the hell it's going to go half the time, right? And that's the problem for a lot of people. And I can score if I'm playing really well, if I'm hitting it well, but sometimes I just don't know where it's going. He knows exactly where that ball's going. If you look at that 4-iron on 18 yesterday that he just overcooked a little bit because, of course, when the pressure gets on and you're a little more nervous, you tend to lay off it a little bit because you don't want to at all ever bring it left into that water. And so he probably missed it by 4 yards. He hits it 4 yards less with that cut, bounces off the side hill, trickles right down to the hole, and he has a tap-in birdie. What took a ton of moxie from him is to sit in that trap, know that a birdie probably was needed to win the tournament, and still hit that sand shot out to the right, knowing that he would have a chance at birdie. It may not be a very makeable birdie putt or a high percentage, but he wasn't going to take the chance of running it down that hill, running it by, and possibly down into that water and losing the tournament. He could win in the playoff if he needed to at -5. That was the number that Paul Azinger really believed would be the number to win the tournament, -5. And sure enough, Louis birdied 18 and finished -5. So that birdie won the tournament.
Let's talk about that here, Ryan. You're frozen on mine. Now you're not frozen. Okay. We should probably wrap this up, but I have 2 quick questions for you. Louis, right? I would trust this guy with my life. Like, he's like Tim Duncan. He's so consistent. You trust him with the fundamentals to just get you there. Number one, are we ever going to see him finally get over the hump in our lifetime by the time he's done? Because obviously since 2010, he hasn't been able to. Number two, that shot that he played safely to set up what eventually was that birdie that he needed to eagle. Would you have taken? I know that they were talking about on the broadcast, like you just have to play it safe and just avoid disaster, even though you have to play for you're not going to play for the win. Would you have played for the win there? Would you have just jacked it and tried to hit that eagle?
What do you have to lose? A second place, a couple. I mean, when you're making that much,
that he hit it just up the fairway with the 7 and just played it safe.
I missed it. I just assumed when he teed off and hit his tee shot, I said, okay, he's going for it. And I had to run upstairs really quick, and it wasn't a quick. It was a quick decision. Him and his caddy were like, it must have been just too far back where he felt comfortable with the club in his hand. And sometimes you feel that way, right? Where you're just like, okay, this club's way too much. Like, I won't even have a chance of hitting it near the hole.
Right.
And this one's not going to get there.
Right.
So,
are we going to see him get over the hump again?
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, he's just been too close and too good in these majors. I mean, the most second place finishes to Phil, I believe, and just ahead of Tiger. Tiger's at 7. I think that he's just too consistent not to, right? But Azinger had a really good point on Saturday or on Sunday. He said on Sundays he becomes really conservative with his putting, where he's not trying to blow it by the hole or go for those birdies, and he has to be that way. He has to be more committed. He has to be, more competitive on a Sunday when you need to make birdies to win. And Jon Rahm was the guy that did it. He went after those holes. Those hole locations, especially at 17 and 18, and it gave him a chance to make birdies, which would ultimately win in the tournament. Jon Rahm shot 67 at the U.S. Open on the final day. That's really, really impressive. Deserves to raise the trophy. Excited for him. Excited for golf moving forward. You throw Phil in there with a little magic at the PGA. Wow, that's incredibly impressive. All right. Let's go to one of our sponsors, SUNFARE.com. SUNFARE is a meal delivery service, personalized, delivered, healthy meals. Go through the sign-up process on SUNFARE.com. Once you get to the enter your information page, you need to select Carl Farrow as your sales representative, then select the RDL show, the Ryan D. Leaf show, about where you heard of it. And if you are in the Phoenix or Los Angeles areas, you can have your first order at 10% off, all right? It's transformed my life. It's transformed my body, and it's been all about the food. It really, really has. I'm coming up on 1 year on this diet, guys. I started this diet July 3rd, 2020, all right? We're coming up on it now. We're June 20th. That picture at the bottom was me on July 3rd. The 2 other photos are here in the past couple weekends on Sundays since doing that. I've lost almost 75 pounds simply by eating the right way. These personalized, delivered, healthy meals from SUNFARE are exceptional. Try it out. It can really change your life. It really can. All right, fellas, the NBA playoffs. Okay, here's another menu for you guys, all right, just to pick from. I'm starting to get more involved, right? I actually watched games this weekend. It's getting down to crunch time. The question of the day, are you happy with the final 4 teams? Are you guys happy with the final 4 teams? I worked out yesterday with one of the Lakers coaches, and it was interesting.
Are you allowed to tell us who or no?
No, I'm not going to tell you who. We were talking about the 6 weeks off last year, how much he's enjoying what it is to be off now for the amount of time. But it's interesting to see the 4 teams in it. Neither one of the top seeds, the Nets or the 76ers out of the East, are in the Final 4. You go out to the West, you got the number 2 seed and the number 4 seed that are in the finals in the West. That series is 1 game down. Phoenix Suns had a heck of a game by Devin Booker without Chris Paul, and now we're about to see the Hawks and the Bucks go at it. Before we get into the 4 teams that are playing, let's kind of talk about those game 7s. All right, in particular, Nets, Bucks. I think everybody just expected the Nets to ultimately in the game 7. If you're going to go 7 games, ultimately Kevin Durant, and with a little help from his friends, we're going to get it done. But I don't hear enough people giving the Bucks, I think, enough credit in all of this. I don't care that people say Kyrie was gone and that Kevin went for 48, and it was pretty much Kevin for 4 consecutive games against the Bucks. You still got to give this Bucks team credit because everybody was calling them losers. Like, this team can't get over the top. When they finally do and get to the Eastern Conference Finals, you got to give them some credit for getting it done. Just simply getting it done when everybody said they couldn't, regardless who they play. They have a real shot at playing for the NBA title this year. And no one was giving them a chance at it at all. So I applaud the fact that Giannis and this team and Middleton and Buds has gotten there. I know there's going to be an asterisk to it because Kyrie was out and Harden was hurt.
Don't say that. No, we do not believe in asterisks.
I don't.
No, good. I'm so done with these asterisk conversations. Welcome to sports, okay? People get hurt. I'm sorry that you got upset that your star got hurt on your team, so therefore you want the other team to have an asterisk next to their victory. This is the reasonable expectation that happens when you consume a sporting event. High-level sports, this is what happens. I have a headache from reading takes by so-called Twitter, like NBA Twitter people who are telling me that the NBA can't be happy with the product that is currently representing both sides, or that we have to have an asterisk. No, we are all very happy. The people that know basketball are very happy with the results on both sides, and the NBA is not complaining because people are going to watch. So don't give me that asterisk BS. And if you want a rebuttal, you can, but I'm passionate about the asterisks.
So am I. I mean, this is sports, right? Guys get hurt. They can complain about the fact that 6 weeks off from a year ago for a couple of the champions teams, but the teams that are playing, right? They've stayed relatively healthy. I mean, Chris Paul's been pushed out.
And the one team that didn't stay healthy, the Clippers still found a way to win. So just a case in point.
Because of a guy named Terrence Mann. I don't know if you guys know Terrence, but Terrence was in a movie called Field of Dreams, and he was a writer. That am I not thinking about the same guy?
I'm not picking the reference.
Are you being serious?
Okay. Yeah. Didn't you guys know that? Did you guys ever watch Field of Dreams?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are so young.
I've absolutely seen Field of Dreams.
Terrence Mann.
You know the author, right? The author that he's got to bring is Terrence Mann, right?
You said that as so matter of fact, like Terrence Mann from Florida State, who's in his second year in the NBA, was also I thought you were going to tell us that he was like a kid in the Field of Dreams or something.
Well, Terrence Mann has never, in the history of his playing career, ever had a 30-plus point game. He went out and had 39 in that game 7. Yeah.
And Huerter on Hawks. How about these guys stepping up, man? This is why, like, we could say everything deserves an asterisk, or you could acknowledge that there were guys. This is NBA
acknowledge basketball. It. That was my whole point in discussing the Bucks. I have to give them a ton of credit. They figured it out. They withstood. They got through overtime, and they won and got to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm more than happy with the Final Four that we have. I'm okay not seeing LeBron, Steph Curry, Kyrie, Kevin Durant. They are great players. Don't get me wrong. But guess what? There's going to have to be a baton that's passed. And Devin Booker, with what he did yesterday and what you talked about in the up-and-coming players, that's what the future of the NBA is going to be. LeBron's 52 years old. He can't play until he's 70, right? So at some point, it's going to have to shift and change. And these are the guys that are going to do it. And this Final Four, the semis in both conferences leading to this place is huge. It's a very important opportunity, and I'm glad that the 4 teams are there. Let's move a little bit to that other Game 7 yesterday and talk about where the Philadelphia 76ers go from here. I mean, today's conversation is all going to be about Ben Simmons, right? And his inability to just put the ball in the bucket, right? I mean, for how big he is, he can handle, he can assist, yes. But I mean, he bypassed a sure layup dunk yesterday to dish off. I don't know how mental that's got to be. And I understand it, right? I understand the mentality part of it. But this team could be exceptionally good. And this guy's got $146 million left on his contract. Where do these 76ers go from here, guys, after losing Game 7 to the Atlanta Hawks?
They have to trade. They have to try to trade him at least.
Well, who's going to take $146 million?
No. I mean, somebody.
Team with a trade exception. But, there are teams with trade exceptions. Here's the problem: for a team like the Celtics, right? I'm not mad about if they would want to go and get Ben Simmons, especially because we just traded Kemba, and now we probably need a guy who can protect the perimeter. But we just used our trade exception on Al Horford. So now we can't. Now we don't have the space to do that, and we don't want that contract. Teams like Sacramento, teams like Cleveland, teams like Orlando, right? Ben Simmons is going to be in a position that we saw Chris Paul in when he went to Oklahoma City, where he's going to go to an organization that's going to reposition him to potentially get him to a better situation if he can produce. If this is the Ben Simmons that's going to happen for the rest of his career, he has a pretty short shelf life, because at this point, this is an offensive league. And if you're passing on layups and you can't pop a 3 on your 15 attempts, like, that's it. I
saw a stat today that in the 84 playoff games he's played in, he's only made 10 shots outside 5 feet.
Yep. It's pathetic. And he won't even take shots within 10 feet now. And he's scared of contact, so he won't go to the free throw line. It's a disaster. And honestly, the Hawks, they played it perfectly. And the crazy thing is, too, is that Philadelphia didn't play a bad game yesterday. They held Trae Young to 5 of 23 shooting, and he still had 10 assists. But what they didn't do, they didn't come back and score points on their own end. They had 17 turnovers. Like, Ben Simmons is the problem, but the organization lacks a winning culture, and it lacks accountability. Like, there's nobody there that is in the locker room trying to hold everybody accountable. There's no voice in that lot. Like, Doc Rivers, everybody is completely ripping him apart because he's always in this situation as the coach. He did it with the Clippers. They blew that 3-1 lead a couple of times last year, and then this year now with the 76ers. But it's not his fault. He doesn't commit 17 turnovers, right? His team missed 33s. Like, that's not him. That's his team not executing. So I think it's larger than a Ben Simmons problem, but you have to start with Ben Simmons and address that issue first before you can move forward.
With Doc Rivers, though, it could be a little bit of an issue just on coaching philosophy, because I mean, he's lost 28 games in the playoffs in his coaching career when his team was able to win and get out of it. So basically an elimination game for the other team. He's lost 28 of those.
He's also coached more of those games than any other coach. So
sure. Look, I'm not saying he's a bum. I'm just saying that's a lot of games to lose. That's a lot of games to lose and an opportunity to move on. And Ben Simmons has been trouble. The final 3 games of the series, 8 points in Game 5, 6 points in Game 6, 5 points in Game 7. The fourth quarter alone in this series, He made 2 shots in game 1, 1 shot in game 3, no shots at all. He made no buckets in the fourth quarter of game 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And in 70, a minimum 70 attempts, Ben Simmons' 34.2 free throw percentage is the worst in postseason
I could
history.
put Ryan on the high post against the zone defense, and he would be more effective right now than Ben Simmons is for the Sixers.
A big issue, Jonathan, a big issue that you brought up, I think it was either Rudy Gobert or somebody else a while back. We were talking about liabilities. I can't remember which player specifically you put out there.
Rudy was a liability against guards in the series. That's why.
Okay, so Ben Simmons, unfortunately, is a liability, and the big issue is, and you see it with him passing up the layups and things. He's a big man. That is his game, to make that layup or at least try for it. Look, if you try for it and you miss it, you get boos and it's a bad
you miss a
look.
wide open layup, your ass is on the bench.
Okay, but you went for what is your game and you missed a shot, which is bad, but you went for the shot. He passed it up out of fear, quote unquote, of going to a line where he's not confident.
Because as soon as he looked up at the score at the backboard, all he saw were tweets and sports talk media like us echoing the voices of he can't do anything, and then he passed it up because he can't take it.
Look, you know what? We could talk about this too, about Bryson's quote unquote collapse too. Some of these athletes in the moment, right? What makes and breaks a lot of these athletes and legacies and things like that are sometimes when it gets tough and you're in the limelight, they don't have the next level to want it and take that last final shot.
Is that a self-confidence thing, Ryan? Is that just the lack of
I say 100%.
Self-confidence been so stripped out by the public media and by the fan perspective?
Hey, man.
You can't do it anymore?
I don't care how many interceptions I threw in a game. Nothing was stopping me from firing it around.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I get where your brain, your brain is the most important muscle in your body. But to get to that place, how much trauma that has to exist right now in that place for him to be so frightened to do what he's done his whole life.
And he's good at it, or was.
If you remember when Rick Ankiel for the St. Louis Cardinals, he was a pitcher his whole life.
Great comment.
And then finally, at some point, he could not step on the mound and get a pitch over the plate. It's what you've done your whole life. It's so amazing what the mentality does. And that's why it's so fascinating to watch players in high pressure situations, in particular golfers and tennis players. If you look back at the French Open and look at what Novak Djokovic did, being down 2-0 to a first time possible Grand Slam winner, and then just getting outplayed for 3 consecutive games, because the stress and the pressure and the mental side of things, when you haven't done it or haven't been there or had so many negative results from it. Yeah. And Ben Simmons is in it right now. I don't know if he sees a sports psychologist, but I bet that would go a long ways in knowing that that's okay to see somebody and talk about it, because you are, if you recall, when he was at LSU, dude would score 35 points a game, right? He'd get to the basket because of his size, his height, and his ability. Even early on in his career in the NBA, he was a little frightened to be outside the paint, but getting to the basket was huge for him because he could go to the line a ton. So, yeah, I can't understand it, because when things went bad for me, I had a fearful and exaggerated notion of what was going on when I walk into the facility, not necessarily on the field. Like, I wasn't hesitant of throwing the football. If I knew the game plan and the play and where I wanted to go with the football, I wasn't. It probably cost me a lot because I tried to fit it in places that I probably shouldn't have. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't just check down Charlie, like dropping back and no matter what, just dropping it off. I wasn't Tua Tagovailoa last year in his starts, right? That's not what I was. I was not conservative. I was not fearful that my ability wouldn't get me over the top. In fact, probably cost me a lot more because I thought my ability was probably a lot better than what a lot of people thought.
There's the opportunity for Ben Simmons here that I've been hearing this morning, and I actually like this take. With him, he is going to play on the Olympic team in Tokyo in July. And there's an opportunity for him to maybe play a couple different positions and just move around the floor in what's ultimately an exhibition. Obviously, it's the Olympics. It's a huge deal. But it's an exhibition as far as it's not in his career in the NBA. And if he's able to go and play different positions and play a different style of basketball, maybe get a fresh start, different coaching, different players, whatever it is, just get away from the Sixers for a minute. He could bounce back next year potentially with just kind of a fresh mindset. If he ends up leaving Philadelphia, that could be kind of a a new opportunity for him as well. But I've been hearing that this morning, and I kind of like that take if he takes it on and if he goes for it. I think issue, and I hate to question a man's want to or integrity or anything like that, so I'm not necessarily, but it's a matter of like work ethic, and does he actually want to maybe move aside and try something different that maybe he hasn't been doing most of his career, which is going to be tough, but it might enhance his career moving forward.
The problem. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, just for a sec. It made me look like a dick, but whatever. He does not play well with stars, right? This was Joel Embiid's team as soon as Joel got back from injury and Ben Simmons was on the court. That was really when we started to see a tangible change in the way that Ben Simmons played. He started to be a little bit more passive. He just didn't display the toughness that we expected from him out of college once he started playing with Joel, and the game went, or the team was basically handed to Embiid, right? And so I'm worried, right? Dame Lillard is going to be on this Olympic team. Jason Tatum is going to be on this Olympic team.
Harden,
Beal. There's going to be Kevin Durant might be on it. There are going to be existing stars. Devin Booker. There are going to be stars, rising stars, and there are going to be guys who are trying to, who like we all know of, that are going to want to get their name on a bigger stage. This could be really good for Ben Simmons, like you said, because the pressure of the stars surrounding him may elevate his game, may motivate him to have a stronger work ethic. Maybe he'll learn something about mental toughness from Dame and from Jason, like from these guys out there. Or maybe we'll see an exaggeration of what we've seen from him when he's played with stars in the past, and we're going to see him play passive, and he's not going to be motivated. He's going to get unmotivated because he realizes maybe what it takes to have to get to that level. Maybe he just isn't in that place right now within himself to get there. I don't know. So I just think that, it could be taken as a really positive opportunity for him, but I think it could also ultimately hurt him. I think he's going to end up going to a team where there's no star, where they could just force feed it to him and try to get him his confidence back when he's out of Philadelphia.
Well, it should be an interesting off season for the 76ers. Daryl Morey, Doc Rivers, that team, and where it goes. Going from the number 1 seed and the terrible loss to the Toronto Raptors a couple years ago, this team is in need of an injection of confidence and hope. The city got to experience what Philadelphia fans are used to experiencing. All right.
You know what they need, Ryan?
They need some athletic brew is what they need. They need to enjoy brew without compromise. Enjoy the taste of great beer taste without the consequences. No reason to double down on getting beaten game 7 like that and then be unable to walk and be coherent today, right? Athletic brew, non-alcoholic brews for you and your boys after your team. I know you want to numb things away. That's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help anybody. Drink the great taste, the light-filling taste of Athletic Brew. Go to athleticbrewing.com. Get 10% off your first order when you mention the RDL show. Try it now. All right, moving on. I know we've talked about fan behavior and the fighting. And as you saw last night in the 76ers game, when it was out of reach, a bottle flew onto the floor. They had to stop, make an announcement. After the individual in Boston was arrested and charged with a felony, how are these fans continuing to throw bottles? Because even though it didn't hit anybody, it had the chance of hitting somebody and hurting him. So if that fan was caught, he would be charged with a felony assault. I don't get it. We talked about being away from the game for as long as people have, and maybe the maladjustment period of what it means to be a patron or a fan at these events. But we're watching it play out in real time. And the reason I bring this story up is because I had a question for you guys in terms of, are the teams complicit, and are they enabling in any way? Because when you look at the football side of things and the safety of it, right? Some of the bigger hits over the last few years, NFL.com was throwing those hits up on their highlight videos, right? Ones that ultimately were considered illegal and could be causing brain trauma to their fellow peers. But the NFL was placing those on their highlight reels, right? Because they know that's what people like. The juxtaposition of what the NFL is placed in between, talking about the safety and wellness of players, yet knowing it's a very violent sport and wanting it to be that way for the fan base, is totally incongruent with one another. And therefore, this Sunday, when we watched the fight take place after the Clippers-Suns game by a bunch of bros getting down, one of the guys yelling to the Clippers fan as they started getting into a conflict, Suns in 4. The reason why that's such a big thing right now is because, if you recall correctly, a few weeks back, the Utah Jazz, the Phoenix Suns,
Nuggets,
and the Nuggets were playing one another.
Yep.
And a Nuggets fan poured a beer on top of the Suns fan. The Suns fan then retaliated with violence, with a couple punches and some physical action. And then, as he was being pulled away, yelled out "Suns in 4." Now, it became a viral video, like anything these days. But what the Suns did in this process is they cut it up. They gave this guy a platform. They gave him free tickets, kind of made him a star, and then yesterday promoted it by giving everybody shirts that said "Suns in 4." Now, they had some plausible deniability in all this, saying we just want the Suns in 4, right?
Yeah.
It's not directly attributed to
What a
the
savage
asshole,
marketing department, Ryan.
right?
This is such a. Have you seen the Suns' Twitter too? They are so savage. They. To be honest with you, okay, I have a problem with it because it led to something negative. But if there was no fight that happened with fans chanting "Suns in 4," I don't think I would be that upset about it, because I do think that this is a brilliant marketing scheme for this organization, even though they may be amplifying a situation that shouldn't be brought to light in a positive way.
Well, it worked. I mean, they just swept the MVP. That's huge. But unfortunately, it's retaliated in 2 cases now of violence. And it sounds like the NBA and certainly Phoenix, with all that hot weather, could use a couple athletic brews, I'm sure.
But here's the truth. Like, we can look. Are the Suns complicit? Maybe. Is Devin Booker complicit? Absolutely, because he was the one who Bleacher Report retweeted him and said, "I want to buy that Suns." And then Richard Jefferson, former NBA player, current ESPN analyst, responded and said, "This sets a very bad precedent." To which Devin Booker commented back on Instagram and said, "Cry about it, old man." So yes, Devin Booker is complicit in the fan base's actions. Should he be like, maybe they should tell him to stop? Should they penalize him in any way? This guy's a kid, right? He's getting lost in the like, maturity comes after the fact, unfortunately, with a lot of this stuff. And I also think that we need, like, this is a fan thing. Like, we're adults, like, be better. There is a high school game in San Diego, a state championship basketball game at Coronado High School down south. A lot of Army families playing Orange Glen, a school in Escondido with a lot of Hispanic families. Coronado won, and some of the fans in the stands started throwing tortillas at the Orange Glen players, and a fight broke out after. If this is not a professional exception. This happens at every level of the game.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm watching fans get into fistfights over high school sports, it's going to be amplified at the professional level when everybody's drunk and being fed into the energy, right? And so I don't know. I think that these situations are not mutually exclusive to the bigger overall problem, which is, what do we have to do to get a sense of just like fan etiquette? Like, how are we not getting that fan etiquette? Yes, Scott.
Finish your thoughts. Sorry, I'm all fired up. I'll wait for it.
No, let's see it. I want to unleash you. Let's hear it.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, my tires are a little deflated, only because I did this, Monday was it, or Wednesday, when you and I popped on, and I had a 15-minute rant about, fans. And I was talking minor league baseball, right? But I've been in youth sports for 20 years, and fans at youth sports are the worst. Parents are the worst.
Sports guy?
Parents are the worst, right? I've been in charge of leagues. I've put all sorts of leagues together. I've coached. I've reffed forever. Parents in youth sports are absolutely horrendous. And it doesn't matter, because we've set up this precedent at the professional level, which everybody sees, and then it trickles down to college and high school and then youth sports, that it's okay for some reason. Somewhere down the line of sports, it's been okay to chastise these people, call them names, make fun of them, make signs that are incredibly offensive, and crossing all sorts of other social norm barriers. But because it's in sports, it's become normalized and okay most of the time. Even like mascots and these kind of things and stuff. And a lot of people will be like, it's tradition. That's how we do it. We have rivalries, whatever. I have a whole nother take on rivalries because most of them are bullshit. Because
we'll see how tradition is changing. Because
well, it's stupid because 99% of these people, especially college kids, are around for maybe 4 years of these traditions, quote unquote, and very rarely are they actually a tradition, which is back and forth. And one team beating another team for decades and decades until it changes over. So I get fired up on this because it's bummed me. And my whole take last week was it's kind of ruined me as a sports nerd my entire life, taking my kids out to the games and stuff. I just straight up don't want to go. I love the sport, but I can't handle fans. And maybe I'm just the grumpy old guy now that doesn't want to hear it, but it straight up ruined the sports for me live. And we're seeing it more and more and more on television with these high profile games, and nothing is being done about it. A guy got a felony, big deal. Like, it's going to keep happening.
What do you guys think about the guy who ran out on the Torrey Pines Green yesterday and got a few golf shots off before they tackled him on the 13?
He had incredible form. I tell you what, though.
So you were judging?
Why not do it? Yeah, why not do it?
No, there was really good hip replacement and follow through. I mean, I would kill for that swing right now. I feel very constricted in my golf swing right now, and I feel like I have all this momentum going forward, and I stop myself. And he had a ton of fluidity and mobility getting through that golf swing.
I think the adrenaline was helping him a little bit there. I will say.
I don't know. I have a lot of adrenaline going. I can't get through a golf shot. It's a mental block, and he was free. He was free, and I loved it. It's not on a golf course.
So let me ask you: is there a double standard? Because we're okay with a fan at Torrey Pines going and hitting a couple of shots because it's not putting the players at a detriment.
I'm also not. I look at he's stupid, right? I look at a fan or somebody at a soccer match
like rushing
the field, or streaking or something like that. I'm just like, it's stupid. It's stupid. They're not hurting anybody. I mean, when we're talking about violence, right? That's a different conversation, and that's the one that and Richard Jefferson's right. And the reason Richard Jefferson has this perspective, and the reason why I have this perspective, and why people may think I'm just overly sensitive, is because the life experiences we've had. And that's a dangerous thing for Devin Booker. It's a dangerous thing for Brooks Koepka to give a bunch of beers to guys that got kicked off the golf course for intimidating and trolling Bryson DeChambeau, right? That could present a problem. You don't understand the consequences that can come with that. And we watched two of them play out last night with that fight in Phoenix, where these bros just decide to go all, Phoenix and 4, and maybe he gets a retweet and a thumbs up from Devin Booker and gets some free tickets and becomes a star there in Phoenix. So there is complicity to it.
So what's the solution? Is there a proposal? So for example, the Mexico national team, their fans had an anti-gay chant that they were consistently chanting. The national team literally pleaded before every match for them to stop, and they didn't. So they just banned fans. They are not allowing fans to Mexican national games now. And that was the team's decision. The team asked them to stop, and they didn't stop.
That's legit. That is significant consequences.
So doing something.
So do we take that as an example into the problems that we're having?
Well, yeah. I mean, this has been a commentary ever since some of the bottle was thrown at Kyrie and things like that nature. Like, fans just got back, and guess what? The fans are going to be the reason why the fans are gone this time, not COVID.
I agree.
I agree. It's an incredible consequence to have. Are the owners and organizations willing to do that? Because that's their good. I mean, that's their money, man.
Nope.
They need beers, merchandise. That's what they want.
Nope.
I'm going to my Cubs are in town this week. I got series tickets. I got tickets for Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday afternoon, right? I'm going to be in my Cubs garb, right behind the dugout, cheering on Rizzo and Bryant, my guys. Jock Peterson back in his Chavez Ravine since where he started his career.
Yeah.
People may not be very happy with me, right? If they, I'm not.
You're used to that though, so it's okay.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they do either. Like if somebody threw a beer on me, right? If somebody threw a beer on me, I can't turn around and wallop the guy in the face, right? What's your response to that, right? It's like, all right, I'm going to call the usher over here, and this individual threw a beer on me. Can you have him escorted out? If the usher goes, hey, I work for the Dodgers. He's a fucking Dodger fan. Fuck you, Cubby. Get the fuck out of here. That's there's some enabling and
then you punch the usher. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna punch the usher. Then I'm just gonna be like, all right, I guess I gotta go. Yes, I gotta go home to go watch my favorite team play in the opposing team's stadium. That's what this sounds like to me now.
It's just
you're the one getting penalized for getting the beer thrown on you.
Yeah, no, it's a joke. We can go on this forever, but I think at the end of the day, for me, it's a human thing. It's a human thing.
It is.
You would never walk up to somebody on the street wearing a Cubs hat in LA and just randomly go after him or something like that. I mean, people do it, obviously.
Not any of
and my Giants unfortunately had one, right? This guy got literally beat within inches of his life after the game wearing Giants stuff in LA. The guy was almost killed because he showed up to the game repping his team. I mean, I'm fired up, man. It's frustrating because it burns the sport for people that go and love the sport in the game. It's unsafe for kids to be there. And look, I know we're talking like post-COVID and people are back and excited. And what do we do like as of 2 months ago? Philadelphia, Pittsburgh.
There should be a ton of gratitude. There should be a ton of gratitude in these fans' hearts right now.
The majority of people take life for granted, Ryan. I'm learning this. This is proof of that. It's very sad. Like instead of showing how our appreciation for the ability to be able to go and participate in these sports from an amazing perspective that we were stripped of for a year, we're going to be back. We're going to be rowdier than ever. We're going to be a bunch of assholes to everybody else. It's the opposite of what should be happening.
You could be super rowdy and not be an asshole.
There's a TikTok reel of two couples on like the log ride at Disneyland. Okay. And I just this is real time reaction from a man with toxic masculinity. All right. The girl is completely kidding, but she's like, this ride's going to make me wet. And she says back, it's like, it better because you can't. And the reaction in the guy's face when he hears it and it's being filmed, like his whole manhood has been stripped from him. It's just like, he's like, not in fucking public, woman. And then he's like, that's bullshit. I make you wet. I mean, it is, your brain goes nonsense when you feel triggered. And if you are in these moments where you're not able to handle something in a positive and healthy way, like just fucking wall off and punch somebody. You see the guy who ran and smoked the Padres guy?
Yeah.
That one too?
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about this forever. Fucking be better human beings, people. Go watch the game. Cheer your team on. If you lose, shake their hand. Good game. We'll see you tomorrow. All right? All right, moving on. Stop having so much spicy.
Pretty spicy.
It's pretty spicy. If you want to have some real spice though of your life, try Bomb Banana. All right, new hot sauce developed by Charlie Moss's brother and his friends at the University of Michigan during the pandemic. Banana based, not banana flavored. I think that's a huge part of it. That's what makes it so damn good. Go to seekthespice.com. That's seekthespice.com, all one word, today, and you can receive 10% off your first order. All right, by using the promo code LEAF. That's LEAF, like on a tree, at checkout. Bomb Banana hot sauce, everybody. Take a try. All right, we're going to get into this. I just wanted to reference it. The Supreme Court with a 9-0 ruling and a pretty significant, tongue lashing by Justice Kavanaugh to the NCAA around what they've been doing, capping what student athletes can receive by way of education-related payments and benefits. What does that mean for the NIL? Well, it could mean the end of amateurism. Now, it doesn't mean anything yet, but this is a very significant step with the Supreme Court fully on the side of this and how illegal Justice Kavanaugh was saying it was in terms of business and antitrust law. We're going to get into that a little bit more on Wednesday, hopefully bringing on an expert who can explain it to us a little bit better so we can talk to you, the audience, more about what this means for college athletics moving forward. All right. Before we get out of here, Let's do a little Q&A. We asked the question: are you happy with the Final Four? I didn't necessarily get your guys' answers, but are you guys happy with the Final Four that we have right now?
I am personally, absolutely. I'm all about fresh blood, as they say. The Suns are incredibly fun. If Chris Paul can make it back, they're even more deadly, and they already picked up game one without him. The Clippers, we'll see what happens to the Clippers, but the Clippers and the Suns, more or less, have been the bottom of the NBA, more or less, for decades, each of them. And now they each have a potential opportunity to get to the finals. The Bucks are interesting. Obviously, Giannis and Middleton are playing great, kind of off and on, but they just got past who should have been the runaway favorite, or was the runaway favorite in the playoffs so far, got past the Nets, and they are getting over the hump themselves. Two-time MVP, finally getting an opportunity. And the Hawks, in my opinion, are my favorite team to watch. Just Trae Young shooting like 11% or something horrendous, and they're still in all of these games. And then he comes up late, and they're having these extra, nobodies, quote unquote, coming up when it matters. That's a nice scrappy team. They're a 5 seed, lowest seed in the NBA finals still, or NBA playoffs, I should say. Still love that team. So I'm absolutely pumped on it. And again, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Reminder, first time in 10 years, no LeBron, no Steph in the playoffs.
Yeah, I love it. I love all 4 teams. Anybody who says that there deserves to be an asterisk for anybody that should not be taken seriously, deserves to be stripped of their platform, and can go watch like lacrosse or something, because they don't know what they're talking about with the NBA. The Bucks are going to win in 5 against the Hawks. The Suns are an inspired squad. I think they'll drop the next one at home, and from then on, I think this will be a 7-game series. I really do. It's going to be really fun. So I don't know who we're going to see out of the West. I'm really happy for both teams. I'm excited for both teams. The storylines are good for both teams. But I have a feeling we're going to see Giannis and the Bucks and a brand new inspired squad out of the East, and they're going to be the toughest team to beat, I think, of the Final Four teams.
And from our audience members, the only viewer, our buddy Eric Davidson, he was the only one that actually commented on that question of the day. Love the Final Four. Great to see. Me too. I'm really happy for the Final Four. I'm also happy. I don't know if you guys saw this today, but the stock market freaking was gangbusters. Everybody, we love when that returns to normality for those who are inching closer to retirement.
Those IRAs are growing, baby. Those IRAs are growing.
I just moved my 401k from the NFL to my private financial advisor. Huge move on my part because,
So none of us should trust the NFL with our money, is what you're saying?
Don't fucking trust your money with the NFL. They have a huge 401k plan. I mean, like billions of dollars, but I mean, they're not. They don't care about my measly little amount in there. My financial advisor does, and he'll make it grow. He'll make it grow. Let's put it that way. We'll really get into the Supreme Court ruling on Wednesday when you guys join us from 12:30 to 1:30. Follow the RDL Show on Twitter and Instagram at the RDL Show, hashtag RDL Show, and subscribe to the Ryan D. Leaf Show on YouTube. Listen via podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. If you can't catch us live, it's the best way to listen to us on your drive home or when you're sitting around relaxing at night with this conversation. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks to Jonathan and Sky and everybody again for making this a reality. As always, we'll see you soon.